She'll freak out. Thank you so much.
I know it's a touchy subject. I know he's a controversial figure.
Trying so hard to just hold back a little bit of emotion hearing you see that.
It's very infuriating, and forgive me if if I sound pissed off, but it's because I am.
I watched it for all the wrong reasons because I thought Bill would be hot in it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not a valid argument.
It's so funny hearing anyone say cassette and CD player. It takes me back.
I was obsessed with that big purple bitch.
I almost scratched it, so I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, you know who you are, high-fiving, talking shit, but you're going home alone, aren't ya?
Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't. Hey, Corvyx, can you hear me?
I can. Hello, hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing good. I should have known you were going to show up on camera looking just as good as you always look.
Thank you. I'm in my lair.
Every time I see these videos, I try to like zoom in to see your background all the time. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, she's detailed. We got her going.
I love it. You're in the East Coast, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in the Hudson Valley in New York. I'm originally from New York City, but I moved up with my partner about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So I've been up here ever since.
Very cool. And if I'm not mistaken, your mom had moved from Italy to the East Coast, or did she move from Italy anywhere else before?
She was originally born in Sicily, and she had moved here, I believe when I confused because both of my parents are actually from Italy, but I believe she moved here when she was 9. Could have been 14. I could be confusing them, but she moved here at a really early age, but she very much like held on to her roots. She still speaks Italian fluently. So yeah, that's correct. She moved to Brooklyn, which is usually the move. Italy to Brooklyn to Staten Island, which is the like trifecta.
So you're an East Coast person through and through.
Through and through. I was born here. I really haven't, I mean, I've ventured and I've taken trips and stuff, but I've never really lived anywhere but these. That's not true. That's not true. I did live on the West Coast for like 6 months when I was like maybe 9, 10 years old, but that doesn't really count.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't count if it was, prior to like 12, I guess.
Yeah, no, it doesn't count.
Very cool. You've talked about your mother being a singer when she was younger, and I want to talk about that real quick. What is your earliest memory of you actually comprehending that your mother was a singer?
Honestly, pretty young because my mom would play some of her older records. My house was a very musical household. There was constant music playing, and I remember my mom did listen to a lot of Italian music, still does, and there were times where she would put on her records, and when I was younger, I couldn't really comprehend. I thought she was just listening to more Italian records, and I believe one day she told me, she's like, "This is me." When I was young, she was really young. She was probably like I believe like between 14 and 19 when she like really was like pursuing it actively in Italy. So she sounded very different. So when she told me it was her, it was weird. I was like, because I had no idea what the recording industry was like. I was a kid, and to me, I'm like, that was rock stardom. So I was like, "Whoa, you're famous, mom?" So that was kind of like the vibe.
Very cool. When was the last time that you have played any of her stuff?
A few years ago, actually, I wanted to show my partner Joey, because he had never heard any of her records, and I mean, it's all in Italian. I don't believe she's ever sung in English, so most of her records are in Italian, and I kind of just wanted to let him hear it because I had told him about it for so long, but the records were like kind of hard to access. I don't remember how we got them. I think we like wound up putting it on like a cassette and then like burn that over to a CD. So it was like a whole process. But I wound up showing him, and that was a few years ago. It was probably like 2 or 3 years ago.
It's so funny hearing anyone say cassette and CD player. It takes me back.
Fossils, fossils.
Exactly. Has it ever crossed your mind to either reimagine one of her songs or interpret one of her songs into an English reimagined Corvyx version?
That's a good question. I never have actually, because her songs were always like music was so different then. And although like I inherited, I think the music bug and the gene from her were very different as people. So I kind of went the darker, epic route. And my mom's songs were more, honestly, she was writing songs about what she was going through as a teenager, which I think is really impressive at that age to be kind of vulnerable in songwriting and putting it out there. But that's a good idea. That's not a bad idea.
You're welcome. This is
Thank
what
you for
Unshut
giving
is
that
all
to
about.
me.
Was your mom being in the performing arts world impact your environment and how comfortable you were being you, or was she reserved and closed off from it, if that makes any sense?
I think performing was always something that I felt comfortable with because I was doing it at a young age. I believe like the first public performance I ever had was like in my maybe third grade class. We put on like a play and it was like excerpts from Greece and like Hernando's Hideaway, which is so weird because I haven't said that in probably 20 years. It's so weird that that just came back to me. So like performing on stage and being in like a musical or a play is very different than kind of curating your own persona and being your own artist.
Totally.
And I know that there's an irony there because I've done predominantly covers for most of my singing career, but I never brand myself as and I never refer to myself as a cover artist because I know that I'm not. I know that I'm an artist. So it's funny to think about that. But I think when I first started like expressing more of my personality was more in college. I went to a performing arts. Well, I was in the performing arts program at Wagner College, which has a very prestigious program. Shout out to Wagner College. I faced some like turmoil there because I was really in a setting where I felt like I was able to be myself. It was the first time that I felt comfortable being openly gay. So I was like really like slipping into my skin and I wanted to experiment. I wanted to get tattoos. I wanted to bleach my hair. I wanted to do all of these things. And I started wearing eyeliner, which obviously stayed. And I think when I started doing things like that, my mom's a little bit more traditional. And I think when I started doing things like that, she was a little taken aback and she was like, well, are you going to wear that to, Sunday dinner with, the family? And she would say things where she was just like nervous for what people were going to say about me. But I don't think she ever really had a problem with it. So to answer your question, like performing in my family was always so comfortable because like I said, we were such a musical household. And then when I entered school, I immediately wanted to be a part of anything that was musical. But it was when I really started, it was kind of like the first planting the first seeds of Corvyx and coming into my own in college. I think that's where there was some friction because playing a role in a play is different. You're taking on something, you're taking direction from someone to play a character a certain way. When I became my own artist, there was no director there. I was the director. And I was able to do whatever I wanted. And I don't know how big you are into astrology. I'm a big astro nerd. I'm an Aquarius. Aquarians are known to be aliens, They are the rule breakers. They're about the collective. Like Aquarians love humanity, but they're also about breaking boundaries and kind of breaking people's perceptions. So that is very, very present in who I am now and even as an artist.
Well, three things real quick. The first thing, I think it's amazing to hear you talk about your mom in this way because I think it comes from a level of protection. I feel like a lot of people tend to forget that sometimes the reservedness from a parent, especially when a gay anyone is coming into their own, it doesn't always come from a place of shame. It comes from protection. And I love
Right.
hearing you talk about that. The second thing is you're absolutely right. You're not just a cover artist. The way that you interpret music is extremely fascinating, which also ties into my third thing, you being an Aquarius. I love Aquariuses. I'm not an Aquarius. I'm a Gemini, so I'm a psycho bitch, but I am so compatible with Aquariuses. My sister's an Aquarius, and it's so incredible for me to see how many Aquariuses are so fucking talented. I am such a jealous bitch when it comes to Aquariuses because they can always either draw, they can either paint. They are the most, in my opinion, the most artistically inclined signs of all of them. But that's just me.
I might be biased, but I think I agree with you. Also, I happen to get along swimming. My sister's a Gemini as well. She is my best friend, and honestly, I'm really good friends with a lot of Geminis. So Geminis get a bad rep. I see like why people say what they say, but I get along. I love kind of like unhinged and unpredictable and like you never know what you're gonna get. I like that energy. So
Well, good. We're going to get along just fine because unpredictability is something that's going to be coming up in this interview here in just a little bit.
perfect.
So, but before we talk a little bit more about your family dynamics and just family in general, I want to talk about your name real quick. First of all, I loved the Crow story playing an inspiration to this. Did you watch the remake by any chance?
I did not. I attribute that to my Aquarian sensibilities as well. When something is super, super popular, I kind of take a step back before I assess it myself. I'm going to be honest with you. I do want to see it. I find most times I don't agree with the collective opinion. That's not to say that it isn't right sometimes. I did a cover of Burn by The Cure right around the time that it came out. Still living out our blood, every night I scream your name. Every night I burn, every night the dreams are sad. Every night I burn, waiting for my only friend. Every night I burn, waiting for the world to I'm fully open to admitting this. Like, I plan my releases that way. Like, when there are things in the pop culture zeitgeist that I love, I will try to do something that coincides with that release. So it was also, I believe, was it the 25th anniversary of the original Crow coming out? Which I love the original movie. So I also didn't mind releasing it around that time. But I did not see the new one with, is it Bill Skarsgård or
It is.
Alexander? Oh, it's Bill, yeah. I didn't hear great things.
Let me tell you, I mean, if you get to it, good. If you don't, it's all good. I watched it for all the wrong reasons because I thought Bill would be hot in it. A lot of people had this opinion that like Bill was too hot for the role, but I'm like, Brandon Lee, the original, so fucking hot. Like, what do you mean? Anyway, that's just my opinion about it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not a valid argument. They're both equally attractive in their own respects.
Absolutely. I love that you took something that you saw as bad omens and made the choice to focus on the perception that it's beautiful, intelligent, and a magical creature. At the time, did you know that it would become a part of your foundation to showcase how perception is a choice, if that makes any sense?
Absolutely. It was very intentional. It was the reason why I think resonated with the raven, the crow, blackbirds in general, because they are very misunderstood creatures throughout history, much like Geminis. They've gotten a bad rep. They've been known to be harbingers of death. When people see ravens, crows, it's kind of like seeing a black cat. I think people get nervous. It's superstition. And ravens are actually the most intelligent bird on the planet. They've also been associated with so many good things, like being messengers. They were messengers in Norse mythology for Odin. He had the two birds, Hugin and was it Hugin and Nugin? I don't remember specifically, but I remember he had two messenger ravens. They've also been revered in Native American culture as shapeshifters and birds of magic, which, you know, I refer to my fan base as the Corvyx Coven. I have a fascination with magic and witches. The Craft is one of my favorite movies. But ultimately, aside from like the fun aesthetic of, you know, witches, ultimately the reason why I have so much magic and alchemy and things associated with my brand is because I believe that music is the closest thing that we have to magic. I look at music as a spell. I look at music as something that can truly like alter the chemicals in our brains as human beings. It can change the energy of a room. That is the most powerful form of transmutation. And I have always associated that with that creature.
I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, I think that your way of just putting this into words, into understanding, it's just magical in its own way. And I
Thank
absolutely
you.
love that. Has this been a common theme in your life, making the choice to having to see the beautiful in the ugly?
I've always been fascinated by things that have scared me. When I was a little boy, like if you ask my mom and my sister, They laugh about it now, but I was obsessed. I had this like morbid fascination with watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs because I was specifically obsessed with the evil queen who turned into the hag. And I would have these recurring nightmares of when she turns into that hag. But there was something about it that, like, I loved the feeling of fear. As I got older, a less fear, but more of a fascination with things that kind of scared other people. One of the most recent things, and I know it's a touchy subject. I know he's a controversial figure, but back in the 90s, Marilyn Manson was in his prime. I always remember being around my cousins and my sister, and anytime his music videos would come on MTV, they would like shut off the TV because they were scared of him. It wasn't really, they didn't really know what he was about or what he was saying, but they were just scared of the way that he looked. And I remember being young and I kind of like almost adapted their fear because I was like, oh, that's scary. Like, don't watch that. But I remember there was always a part of me that was like, I want to go home and watch it.
Yes.
Like there was something that I was like, I want to know why, like, why is everyone so scared of this thing or this person or this movie? The other thing, The Exorcist a movie that was like forbidden. Like my family was like, don't watch it. You can't watch it. We're traumatized by it. And I remember like being so fascinated. I'm like, the thing that everyone's telling me not to do, I want to do. And it's funny. I think as I've gotten older, I've become all of the things that people used to fear. I've gotten comparisons to Manson before. I even think, you know, my sensibility and the way I look and the way I dress and this kind of alternative sensibility that I have, a lot of people are put off by it. And I think the difference, though, between me and like the artists that I love, I would say the only artist that I feel really a kinship with on such a visceral level is Gaga, because I think she does the same thing. That sounds so arrogant to like compare myself to Gaga, but
Not at all. Not at
I'm
all.
saying it because I think she presents as such an alien, but she's also so in touch and down to earth. And I think people are surprised when they speak to me and have a conversation with me. And at first glance, everyone thinks I'm in a metal band. They think I'm a screamer. So when they hear me open my mouth and I don't sound the way that they think I'm going to sound, and they hear me singing songs like My Heart Will Go On and Come Clean by Hilary Duff, I think they're so confused. And I love that. Let the rain fall down and wake my dreams. Let it wash away my sanity. 'Cause I wanna feel the thunder, I wanna scream. Let the rain fall down, I'm coming clear. I'm coming clear. I love that that has kind of become what I'm known for, is like breaking this idea and these ideologies surrounding perception and what someone is supposed to be.
Absolutely. And I think that, again, the way that you're explaining it, that's art and magic infused into one. Without that level of confusion, are you really grabbing anyone's attention? And I think that there's a very natural way to do that versus some of the artists who do things a little bit too forcefully and it's not very organic. And so I think the fact that you've played on these influences, tapping into the things that have scared you, is the reason why, ironically enough, is what's captivating you and becoming you so attached to even just your fan base. That is such a beautiful thing. It's a very powerful thing. So, and I don't think it's arrogant to compare yourself to Lady Gaga. I think that you said it so perfectly. If there's this alien vibe to her, but isn't the thing that we all want to discover the thing that scares us the most, but we all just can't get enough of it, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. I love
Yep.
it. So I also want to talk about your musical journey real quick and talk about musical theater real quick. Have you ever considered in the future writing scripts or getting involved with anything like cinema? And I ask you this because of how cinematic you are from the image, vocally, the way you rearrange, the way you reimagine, which is a reason why I don't consider you a cover artist because you can strip down a song and truly make it your own. In my opinion, not a lot of cover artists, quote unquote, can actually do. Is there anything else outside of this that you have ever considered tapping into?
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I would love to get into the world of independent films. I would love to, my trajectory, what I really want for myself and what I see for myself is similar to Jared Leto, Johnny Depp, where like these worlds kind of mend and bleed into each other because I'm so inspired by different mediums of art. I'm a big reader. I love reading. I'm a big fan of television, films, and I grew up on a stage. I grew up acting as well as singing. And for me, they kind of have a symbiotic relationship. Even when I'm performing a song and I'm in a music video, to me, I do feel like I'm slipping into something, even though it's me. I do feel like I'm still telling a story. Whether that's in a 2 hour show, a 2 hour musical, or a 3 minute song, to me, it's storytelling. And so I love acting and I would absolutely die to like get on set of a film. I actually have been kind of like putting feelers out there to like some independent like film directors that I know and just letting them know like, hey, I have a very specific look. So I know that it's not always going to be right for everything, but I think the right films and the right roles would be incredible.
Well, I can't wait for that to manifest into whatever the universe has planned for you because I can totally see it. And I just want to point out the fact on record, a lot of these actors that have gone and become completely iconic. I mean, you even mentioned The Craft a minute ago, which is one of my siblings' favorite movie. Some of the cast on there, and I cannot pronounce her name, so I'm not even going to try, but I know you know which one I'm talking about.
Peruzabak.
Yes. I mean, she stood out so much, but look at the iconicness that she's brought to the table in the acting scene. So having a very specific look will not totally stop you from being able to pursue that one day. I'm just saying
Right.
that, so that's just me.
Thank you.
Of course, in honor of talking of reimagining, okay, this is going to be reimagined with a Corvyx and Unshut twist. Are you ready?
Sure.
If Corvix could take a pop, bright type of film and give it a darker spin to it, which one are you picking?
I have to go with the first that just came to mind, The Wizard of Oz. And I
Beautiful.
know I know that Wicked has that kind of spin to it, but Wicked is still a musical, right? There's something about The Wizard of Oz, and this goes back to that fear thing, right? I remember also being obsessed with that movie. I was obsessed with The Witch, but there's something about that movie that I feel like if you removed a lot of the campiness, it would be deeply unsettling. I think there would be a really cool way to approach it cinematically and just with kind of almost like a Christopher Nolan type psychological edge to it. This is like the most like I guess hetero thing about me. I'm a big fan of the Batman films and like that
Yes.
universe. I think like an approach from like Christopher Nolan with like a really like cerebral, psychological, dark, gritty angle on The Wizard of Oz would be sick.
Dude, I'm covered in goosebumps because you are speaking my fucking language. Like, and it's so incredible because there is a big difference in both Wicked and The Wizard of Oz. Like, Wicked, in my opinion, I feel like it's just entirely its own thing. And I
Mhm.
think that's where the beauty of that lies. And so you're absolutely right. Something reimagined in that way with The Wizard of Oz would be fucking incredible. So I love
Mhm.
that. The next one I have for you is if Corvix was asked to give the Barney theme song a darker spin, would you be up for the challenge?
Honestly, I feel like I've done worse. I had to do a cover of something for Six Flags, which was a pretty maybe it's not as bad as Barney, but it was pretty campy. It was something that I felt like was like a little corny, but ultimately I was like, okay, I'm cool with this. I think I could do it, and it wound up working out. I don't know if I'd be up for that, to be honest. I don't know if I could Corvix that up. I mean, I could try, but I also did a cover of Where Are You Christmas from The Grinch
Yes.
years and years ago as a collab with these incredible SFX makeup artists in Germany. I was like, this could be a disaster or this could be really cool. And it actually wound up working. So I don't know, maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit, but I don't know if I'd be up for Barney.
We'll have to find out and see one day. Do you know why I asked Barney specifically?
I don't. I was obsessed with Barney as a kid, but is that special?
Well, in a previous interview, you talked about graduating from Barney to Hero by Mariah Carey. Do you remember that?
Yes, yes. I mean, Barney is probably like one of the first shows that I was like vocalizing to. So, yeah, I was obsessed with that big purple bitch. Um, I just still don't know if I'd be able to redo that. But that's funny. That's really funny that
I
that's
had
out on the internet.
I definitely had to bring it up and give it my own twist. And because of that, I really like to take and create segments inspired by things that the artist has said that just kind of stand out to me. It's my crazy way to tying a lot of things together. And before we do the next thing real quick, I totally had this as a filler thing, but I'm going to rock with it because I think it's just going to be the right vibe. But I know that in another interview, you talked about other musical influences like Pink, and I'm a huge Pink fan as well. And so I wrote this down on here. I have a favorite song or two that I want to see if you can finish the Pink lyrics to. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, the first one I have is, and keep in mind you're the singer here, not me, so no judgment, okay? I don't wanna wake up with another, but I don't wanna always wake up with you either. No, you can't hop into my shower.
All I ask for is one fucking hour. You
Hell
taste so
yes.
sweet, but I can't eat the same thing every day. Cutting off the phone, leave me the fuck alone. Tomorrow I'll be begging you to come home tonight. I love that.
Dude, I could just literally end the fucking call now. My day is made. I am covered in goosebumps, and if you couldn't tell, I'm much better at lip syncing along than actually singing. So thank you. I love it. The next one I have for you is you talk real loud, but you ain't saying nothing cool.
Ooh.
I knew this one was gonna be tricky.
You ain't nothing but a hooker selling your fucking soul. Is it from Hooker?
It's not. And I did have that one on my list, so that's so fucking
That's a deep cut.
crazy. It
Hold on.
is.
I need to get this. I need to get this or I can't live it down.
And maybe I should also give it to you in the tone. I just got a little bit nervous to wanting to sing in front of you.
Oh, no, fully sing.
You talk real loud, but you ain't saying nothing cool.
Oh my God. You talk real loud, but you ain't saying nothing good. I could fit your whole house in my swimming pool, 'cause I can.
Yes,
Hell
fuck,
yeah.
yes.
Wow. I'm so mad that I didn't get that on the first try because I'm Not Dead is literally tattooed on my navel.
Dude,
That whole album.
100%. Same.
Ugh.
Oh my gosh. I'll definitely take the credit on you not getting that on the first try because I totally butchered the tempo of it. I apologize.
No, it helped me. No, that absolutely helped me.
I love it. The last one I have for you is
Uh-oh, now I'm nervous.
we didn't get all dressed up just for you to see, so quit spilling your drinks on me. Yeah.
Yeah, you know who you are, high-fiving, talking shit, but you're going home alone, aren't you? You and
Dude,
your hand.
I
Hell
am
yeah.
covered in fucking goosebumps. I've got cotton mouth. You killed it. Thank you so much for going along with that. I almost scratched it, so I'm glad I didn't.
I'm so happy you didn't, but I'm also that shouldn't have taken me two attempts on the second one. That pisses me off, but I
It's
love that.
okay.
That's
It's
great.
going to piss me off playing it back, realizing that I didn't get the tempo and I didn't commit to the singing. So it's okay.
You're good.
Well, again, thanks so much for doing that with me. I wanted to honor the fact that you had said at another interview that you'll always be a fan of music first, which again goes back to how I like to tie things in the episode. And I want to talk about that real quick. Do you think that remaining a fan of what you do is one of the key ingredients to keeping the spark alive, if that makes sense?
Hugely. I think that, like I said, I think with different mediums of art, they inform my decisions. And honestly, like one of my favorite projects that I've ever done, two, if I can talk about two,
Totally.
two of my favorite projects that I've ever done were majorly inspired by two of my favorite shows ever made. One was Game of Thrones, and I decided for the last season to kind of commemorate that show and like what it meant to me. I always thought, how cool would it be if I took one of my favorite songs by one of my favorite artists, Florence and the Machine, and kind of used it to commemorate Game of Thrones because there's a song that Florence has called Seven Devils. It essentially, to me, like the correlation was like instant. It was like magnetic. Set the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros and Seven Devils. And I don't know how familiar you are with the Game of Thrones, but the show is essentially like The Sopranos, but in like the medieval times. It's just like brutal and like you can't trust anyone and like you never know who's gonna die. And so to me, I was like, this makes perfect sense. And that project came together so seamlessly because of how inspired I was by A Game of Thrones and by Florence and the Machine and this idea that came together. Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, they're two separate entities in my life. And the fact that like my synapses were firing and I was like, wait, this is incredible. And like maybe it'll never merge even though Florence did wind up doing a song for the last season, I was like, I wonder if these worlds will ever collide because this was before that. So I wound up building the Iron Throne for this music video. I put like everything into this music video. And it is still for me like such a mantelpiece. And it's one of my favorite things that I've ever done. And similarly, a few years ago, when season 4 of Stranger Things aired, I don't want to give away spoilers, but there is an episode where a very famous song from the 80s by Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill, was used. When we watched this scene that the song was featured in, my partner and I looked at each other and he was like, because he's also an artist, he's a singer as well. He was like, "Do you want to do this?" And I was like, 1000%. So we wound up duetting on that song, and we made it very Stranger Things coded. The whole music video was like an homage to Stranger Things.
If only could, I'd make a deal with God.
It's also one of my favorite things that I've ever done. So for me, there's no separation between me being a fan and me being an artist because I am so inspired by the things I am a fan of that they inform my choices and how I pick what I pick to cover and why I make certain choices in my visuals. So to me, it's like, I don't think I would be an artist if I wasn't a fan first.
Absolutely. Now that I hear this side of that story, I'm even more intrigued in what we're going to close out with. So I can't wait to talk a little bit more about that. But again, it takes me back to that magic witchcraft that you talk about. That's some serious real life foreshadowing. It's crazy.
Yeah, and there are a lot of synchronicities and things that happen around a lot of my releases with anniversary dates of like albums and stuff. And that's the one thing I will say is not planned. When I release certain songs, I will find out either the week of or the day of I'm on set that it is the anniversary of the album that the song is from that day. I think the creepiest thing that's happened was about 3 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago. I released a cover of Fly by Hilary Duff. Just randomly because I'm a millennial emo, right? I just like at the time, Hilary Duff was kind of like my beard. I was like, oh, she's so hot. Like she's this. But really, I was like, she's a fucking rock star and I want to be her. She had, I still think to this day, one of the best pop discographies, and Fly and Come Clean, which I recently covered, were two of the songs that like, I don't know, they just did something to me when I was a teenager. There was just something about, or maybe I wasn't even a teenager yet. Maybe I was like a pre-adolescent, but they just did something to me. There was something about those songs that really like made me feel like infinite. And it felt very existential and it felt larger than like, you know, no tea, no shade, but like what a lot of pop songs are about now. And I remember when I released that cover of Fly, on that day, Hilary Duff posted something and said, "Happy anniversary to this song, Fly, that changed my life." It was so weird. And that happens with a lot of things that I release. So my boyfriend always, he's like, "You really are a fucking witch. You're a witch."
Which is so funny because the alignment of how certain things work out, where I'll have one guest who is connected to this guest, but they didn't know, and I didn't know that they were connected, or just certain back end things that you just cannot explain. I'm telling you, I always talk on the show about just being intuitively with who I choose to have on the show. And it's because of that reason, because, you know, those little connections, you can't explain them. I don't know how far back you went to look back at older episodes of mine, and I don't really talk about it too much, but for me, The Wizard of Oz is really special to me because I grew up with Liza Minnelli. My mother was her personal assistant, and of course, Judy Garland, her mom. I won't retell the whole story, but
Uh-huh.
it's another one of those reasons reasons why when you said The Wizard of Oz, I get covered in goosebumps because a lot of these connections that just naturally happen without any planning just sort of
That is
happen,
so weird.
right?
I
Crazy.
swear I did not see anything about that. That's bizarre.
It's so
I
bizarre
don't
and you
believe in
can't explain it.
coincidence though, so that's amazing.
Dude, absolutely. Same. I want to talk about YouTube real quick in
Mhm.
regards to watching YouTube change from landscape views to horizontal views with other platforms, right?
Mhm.
Things always do come back around. What is something that you'd like to see come back since you started, considering you've been doing this for at least over 10 years now?
That's a good question. I'm such a fan of concepts and I'm such a fan of long form content because it allows you to really be immersed in what the artist wants you to be immersed in. It's really hard, and I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it's possible, but it is harder to kind of immerse people in a 30-second clip on social media. And I think I'm such a fan of world building, and I think that's why I'm a fan of the things that I'm a fan of. I love like epic fantasies, dark fantasies. I love shows that like really like you're just so immersed in that world. It's also why I hate that like a lot of shows have been cut down to like 8 episodes now instead of like I'm like give me like a full like 10 to 15 episode season. You know what I mean? Like I really want to like sink my teeth and live in that world for however long I'm watching it. But I think I'm always going to be such an advocate for visuals and music videos, like real music videos that like tell a story. And I think the music industry and with TikTok and like vertical content becoming so prominent, I think it's taken away a little bit from like the poignancy of creating a world and telling a story through visuals. And I'm an independent artist. I'm not signed to a label. I've never had money like pumped into me. Everything that I've done has been self-funded. And by self-funded, I also obviously mean like my fans have helped as well with my Patreon community. But there are ways to still world build without CGI, AI, all of the things that people think they need to create like a music video. It's funny, I get a lot of compliments on my visuals, and people are constantly like, I love that it's so simple and like it's still like very aesthetically pleasing, but it's like just him and like you could really focus on his voice. And I'm like, y'all don't understand. Like if I did have the money, I would be creating I would be creating like the visuals that I really, really want to create. But I'm still really inspired by working within limitations. And I still think it's important to do that and to challenge yourself as an artist to really see what can be created. So for me, I appreciate YouTube and I think that their shorts feature is cool and it's another tool to grow. But I don't think that they're relying on that as a platform. And I don't think they're trying to compete with TikTok or Instagram. So for me, YouTube is always going to hold a special place in my heart because that's where I really feel like if I want to direct someone to see who I am or understand who I am as an artist, aside from like, you know, listening to my music, I don't want to send a Spotify link. I want them to see the full thing. I want them to experience, like, it's so important to me. And it's funny because my partner always yells, he's like, you really try to control the way people watch things, like ingest, like we'll be watching a show and he'll get up to like go get more food or like pee or whatever. And I'll pause it. And he's like, you don't have to pause it. And I'm like, no, you need to see this. Like you need to watch it. I need your brain to like visualize this and see it a certain way. And so for me, it really is important, like marrying visuals and audio. And that's why like I'll always send people my YouTube channel, even though like I have a bigger following on TikTok. To me, it's more of an accomplishment that I've been able to garner a fan base there because to me, that's like my life work and that's my portfolio.
I feel like you're also giving the audience something that we all crave that we don't necessarily think we're craving. And I think you said it so spot on with the reason why you're holding on to visualizers, because I do think that's something that has strayed away in the industry. And so I feel like the fact that you're holding on to this artistic visualizing part of who you are is the reason why you're captivating the people that you're captivating. And I also want to applaud you for giving a shout out to your fans. I do appreciate you also talking about Patreon because I do feel like it really does go unsaid how without that support, without have this personal, intimate connection with your fans, you wouldn't be able to pursue this. And I think a lot of artists forget that. And so thank you for that. And I want to talk about that real quick, your Patreon channel. Tell us more about that.
I've been on Patreon. I'm now a Patreon creator ambassador, actually. So like I've been on Patreon since I started YouTube. So I've been on Patreon, I think, for like 8 to 9 years. I've been on YouTube a little bit longer, but I knew that I can't release as frequently as I want to release if I'm balancing a full-time job essentially and being a musician. And there is no other route for me. There is no plan B. Like, this is what I'm doing. It's funny, I think the video is still up. There's an old video of me, like when I first launched my Patreon and I was telling people about it. I created like this introductory video. And in the video, I say, if you want to help me make less, lattes at Starbucks and really like, release music more frequently, this is the way to do it. 8 years later, granted, I quit Starbucks in 2017. So since then, I've been a full-time musician because of my fan base and my Patreon community. So without them, truly, like, I wouldn't be able to be a full-time musician. I would probably have to get a 9 to 5, and that would definitely splinter my energy and not allow me to go full steam ahead with Corvyx.
Why do you think some artists forget that? I feel like the fact that, here you are since 2017, being able to acknowledge the fact that your fans have been a huge part of this journey with you. They believe in you, but it sounds to me like you also believe in them. Why do you feel like some artists forget that?
This is going to sound metaphorical and poetic and corny, and I don't mean it to, but there was a quote that stuck with me that I don't remember where I read it, but it stuck with me for a long time now. I think it's easier to look at all the trees when you're lost in the forest rather than looking for the path. And I think that if you look for the trees, you're always going to see them. They're always going to be there. If you look for the path, you're going to find it. You're going to find it no matter what. And so for me, I think when I see other artists, and I've been there, I'm still there sometimes, it's intimidating and it feels almost futile, and it feels hopeless in a landscape where, like, now, especially now more than ever, anyone with a microphone can release a song on Spotify. Everyone has an iPhone or a beautiful camera where they can look great, and everyone has learned how to edit, and it's really like our culture now. So it can feel really, really intimidating to, I think even fathom that you can create a fan base or garner a fan base. And so I think that, I forgot whose article it is, but I think it's called 100 True Fans. And it's this idea that, like, that's really all you need. I don't know if it's 100 or 1,000. I think it's 100. That is quite a jump. Really all you need is that core fan base that will fucking ride for you at dawn. And you can acquire that. I think what feels daunting is that it feels like a lottery with a lot of these algorithms, right? It's like, you can film this beautiful, amazing piece of content. You can sound incredible. You can, be dressed to the nines and release it, and it's crickets, right? And you're like, what the hell? Like, I'm following the formula. I think this is what people would like. But all it really takes is that one video. And I've been releasing covers for a long time, right? So I've had people trickle in and out. And as funny as it is to say, I don't really think that I hit my stride until about 1.5 years ago when I released My Heart Will Go On. And that cover completely changed my life. With as many covers as I released, it led me to that moment where I released that cover, and that is the cover that blew up. It got over like 30 million views on TikTok, and I was exposed to so many people, and a lot of them did not stick around, and a lot of them have stayed true core fans, loyal fans that have gotten my face tattooed on them. These are people that I don't think would ever leave. to be honest. Even if they did, the fact that the people who've trickled in and out, people who've stayed or people who haven't, they've all gotten me to this point. So if it wasn't for my fan base, I wouldn't be here. I absolutely wouldn't be here. And you never know when you're going to strike gold. You know, it can be that moment where you like, you're digging and you're digging and you're digging and you're like, fuck this, I'm done. Like, I'm over this. And then that next day could be the day, right? It's also the danger of it because that's what keeps you on the hamster wheel. Like I said, it's a lottery and it feels like it's like a dopamine hit. But I think it's less of a lottery than people think. I think once you hit a stride and you do start resonating with a core group of people and a demographic, it can snowball from there. That is what happened with me.
Well, I applaud you for acknowledging it because from an outside looking in, I just discovered you for the first time very recently. I mean, I literally inquired you the second that I was exposed to you, and you're absolutely right. It's the way that you are acknowledging and honoring your fans. I think that it's a very special thing. My sister's one of them. My sister became stupidly obsessed with you from watching your videos, and she decided to tag me in one of them. And that to me alone speaks so much volumes because the fact that people are discovering you and want to share you so proudly speaks a lot of volumes of the fan base that you are continuing to develop and to grow. And so I applaud you for acknowledging them through and through with everything that you're doing, and can't talk about my sister and the connection with this episode and how we came about it without talking about how I was so incredibly touched by a comment you made on an interview about your sister and how she was almost kind of like a parent figure to you. And I resonated with that. I connected to that. And I want to talk about that real quick. Your sister, is she your only sibling or are there other siblings too?
So my sister is my only full like sibling from the same parents. I do have a half brother who lives in Texas. Our relationship is kind of like, you know, it's not estranged, but we don't keep in touch as much. But my sister, she was essentially my only sibling that I've had for a majority of my life because she's 13 years older than me. So there's like a big age gap there, but she was my best friend. She remains my best friend. And I think now that I've gotten older, it's funny because it almost moved in a way, and I don't want to say backwards, but I'm mature enough now where we've become best friends rather than just like she's my guardian or my mother or like my maternal figure. She's now like we have almost more of a sibling relationship now than we've ever had. And I think it's because there's like a mutual respect for each other. I think my sister, I shouldn't say I think. I think she's going to slap me upside the head if I say I think. I know that my sister loves and respects me beyond measure. And I think she's really proud of who I've become and how ferociously I've fought for the life that I want. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my sister. She was always my biggest fan. She was always cheering and rooting me on and always telling me like, don't pay any mind to people that gossip, that, you know, say anything about you behind your back. That chatter is meant to hold you back. And like, you have to act in spite of it. She was the person that essentially like I started singing with. Although my mom is a singer, my parents had a very tumultuous relationship. Like many people, I grew up in a household where there was a lot of fighting and my sister was always the person to like grab me and like she's like, we're gonna go upstairs and we're gonna listen to music, and she would just like put on music really loud and that was kind of like our escape. As much as it was like a distraction for me as a kid, I also think for her it was an escape and a distraction because she had something to take care of. And now to see that kind of like blossom into this thing that like isn't just a hobby for me, it became my life. I can imagine it's special for her to watch.
I mean, I'm covered in goosebumps all over again because that's something I can totally resonate to, but I've never really thought about the purpose that it gives an older sibling to take care of the younger one. You just put that into perspective for me, and I'm trying so hard to just hold back a little bit of emotion hearing you say that because it is something that I can acknowledge and resonate with. And to me, again, it's these special connections that without them, we don't stay true and grounded to who we are, and without them, we cannot showcase that to people and attach ourselves to the people that we connect with. And again, it's another reason to add on to the list of the Corvyx amazing things that you do that, in my opinion, is really what's going to keep you catapulting because of your ability to stay grounded and to honor those people along the way. And there was something we had talked about a little bit off record with your sister, a recent journey that she had been going through. Are you okay talking about that?
Absolutely, yeah. Last year, I had started a GoFundMe for my sister because back in 2016, she was diagnosed with a rare brain condition called idiopathic intracranial hypertension, which essentially, in layman's terms, it is like having a brain tumor without an actual tumor present. So what happens is her body creates more spinal fluid. It's called cerebrospinal fluid, which is something we all have. It's a fluid that runs from our cranium down our spine and up again, and it helps lubricate our spine and our skull. What her body does is creates an excess amount of that. So what happens is the fluid actually gets trapped in her skull and it creates a lot of pressure. As you can imagine, can lead to a lot of other issues like permanent blindness. That's actually how we found out that she had the condition. She was working, my sister used to work for a reputable law firm in the city. She held down a very stable, good job for 20 plus years. She was not the type to like ever really miss work. She was a workaholic. She loved working. I remember that year, there were a few times where she would call me from work or she would be on the express bus coming home and I would have to go get her because she wasn't able to see. And I was like, when it first happened, it was really scary because she was like, I was at my desk and she's like, I literally can't, my eyes are wide open and I can't see anything. So that's when we realized something was up and something was wrong. So she went to an optometrist and they found that her optic nerves were so swollen that they were on the verge of bursting. So they rushed her to the ER. They had to perform an emergency spinal tap to get the fluid out of her back so that it could relieve some pressure on the eye. And that's when we found out that this is a condition. And it happens in women of childbearing age. And she essentially went down this road of like, she was still going to work. She was trying to kind of battle this and just live with it. And it eventually got to a point where she couldn't anymore. And she was advised by her neurologist, her specialists, every medical professional that she's ever seen. They said, you cannot work, you need to apply for disability because this is progressively getting worse. It's kind of an aggressive condition and we don't know how long you've had it. And the only way to really alleviate pressure in her skull is to be on medication for the rest of her life. And even that medication doesn't really do what it needs to do, even though it's an aggressive medication. And you can't get spinal taps every week. It's not good for your body. It's not good for your joints. And they're extremely, excruciatingly painful. She's been out of work essentially since 2016. We thought that this application for disability would have been rather easy and that she was a shoo-in because she was advised by lawyers, medical professionals, everyone that she's spoken to. They said, you're going to get it. Like, you are ill. You are unable to work. You know, she was essentially going blind. She couldn't see. She would suffer from really, really bad episodes of nausea and vomiting. And it was a mess. I essentially became her caretaker the last 5 years that we lived together, where I was doing everything that was physical, like going grocery shopping, laundry, cleaning the house, anything that was like labor intensive, anything that required her to stand for too long, whatever. She genuinely could not take care of herself anymore. And it was weird because my sister was always like Superwoman to me. So to watch her kind of like become this like shell of herself due to this illness was really scary, also humbling. You know, you never know what's going to happen in life and when things can take a turn. She's been battling for disability benefits for 8 years now. And unfortunately, she was ultimately denied. It got to a federal level. I'm telling you this before I even make the video, but I created a GoFundMe last year to help her survive, to keep her in the apartment that she was in because it had taken so long. The lawyers kept saying like, 6 more months, 8 more months, you'll get an answer. She had gotten denied a few times and they kept telling her to appeal it because they said, you are ill, you're sick. There's no way that you can join the workforce in the condition that you're in. So, of course, you're going to listen to medical professionals and lawyers and anyone that's, working on your case. She took their advice, and unfortunately, none of the judges voted in favor of her being ill and receiving disability benefits, because I personally believe that if you aren't terminally ill, or if you don't have a temporary minor injury where they know you're not going to be on disability for a long time, you don't get approved. It's very infuriating, and forgive me if I sound pissed off, but it's because I am. It's infuriating to watch the system fail over and over and over again, especially when it's the person that you love most in this world, especially when it's the person that has done everything for you. I wouldn't have been able to pursue music if it wasn't for my sister. And so I felt helpless. And like the only thing that I felt like I was able to do was use my platform that she essentially gave me. Because if I wasn't able to pursue music, I wouldn't have a platform. So I used my platform and my audience to raise over $30,000 for her, which was amazing. And I'm so grateful to every single person that contributed to my sister's GoFundMe. And it just goes to show how much my fan base has gone beyond this like superficial level of seeing me as an artist, but deeply caring for me as a person, which also just like elevated my level of respect for them as well. The GoFundMe is still ongoing. And that's a part of the reason why I want to make an updated video to let everyone know that unfortunately her denial has left her in a really desolate place. She's not going to be able to live on her own anymore. She owes a lot of money to the IRS because she had to borrow money from her 401k because this took so long. So there's a lot of chips stacked against her. And I'm going to do my very best with my platform and my fan base and everything that I've been able to do, all the privileges that I have to help my sister.
I'm totally gathering that full circle moment of where that role reversal kind of came into hand with something you said a little bit earlier ago about, she was taking you up the stairs to kind of shut out the noise. And now here you are, even though she's 13 or so years older, now you're grabbing her and saying, hey, let's go up into the room and let me figure out what I can now do for you. And I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful story. And I'm just as pissed off as you are hearing the story because I was not expecting that side of the story. The fact that there is no positive outcome to this yet should be outraging everyone listening to this because, like you said, it's not just about the system failing someone, and it's not just about us from the outside watching the system constantly fail other people, but it's only a matter of when is it going to fail you directly. And I feel like that's the scary part. And so thank you so much for sharing that story about her and this journey. And I think it's incredible that you're now going to be using your platform to bring awareness to this, but also not just the system, but to also this illness that has completely derailed her life. I think that it's so important to talk about. So thank you so much for sharing about that.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to. It's definitely something that's important and near and dear to me.
No, for sure. And just to kind of end things on a brighter note, like, we talked about earlier in the episode, we have to find the brightness in everything, right? It truly is a choice. And I think that not only was that a common theme with your name, with everything you're doing, but it's just a common theme on today's episode too. But what else is in store for Corvyx? What can we expect for the end of the year, for next year? What can we see in the future?
As of right now, I have 3 more covers for 2025 in the vault, and I'm very excited about them. One is a cover that has been requested probably since the beginning of my YouTube career. I think it's just like one of those cult fan favorite songs. It's something that I was always, I don't want to say nervous to approach, but it was something that I always kind of just like stayed away from because I didn't know if I could bring anything to it. There have been so many covers of the song, so many different reinterpretations of it, and I didn't know if I wanted to touch it yet. And I think I finally came to a point in my career where I was like, I think it's time. I think it's going to be well received. It is a standalone. The other 2 covers that are going to be coming out, I'm excited about because there's a bittersweet energy to both of them. The sweet is that one of the songs is one song I've wanted to cover forever. It's one of my favorite songs. It's one of my favorite genres of music. And the other is a collab with a incredible cinematic producer who reached out to me this year, actually. And we were trying to land on the right song. And finally he was like, what if we do this around the time the last season of Stranger Things airs? And I said, that's really funny because I have a cover that I'm also releasing around the same time that Stranger Things airs. But being that the finale of Stranger Things is so kind of spaced out this time, because I believe it returns on Thanksgiving, I believe the second portion of it comes out on Christmas or Christmas Eve. And then I believe the other one, the last segment of it comes out on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. I'm mixing up the eves. But I was like, you know what? There was a part of me that was like, is this gonna like overlap and interfere? And I was like, no, this is almost gonna be like a 2-part Corvyx project, because one is going to be with this producer. His name is Matthias Frisch, Fritsche. I think that's German, but he owns Unix Studio, and I believe he's based in Germany. He's incredible, and we're going to be collabing, and it's going to be a joint collaboration on YouTube, which is so fucking cool that YouTube is doing that now, because now we can like, you know, really cross-contaminate audiences, and I think it's going to be really awesome. And the funny thing is, the collab that we're doing is also a Stranger Things collab. It's very Stranger Things coded. So much so that it essentially has the like that synth that's in the intro. And it's a song that I kind of always hated. And when he sent it to me, I was like, oh no. I'm like, I love that it's Stranger Things coded, but I don't know if I love the song. This is before I listened to it. And then I listened to it and I was like, holy shit, I'm in. We're doing a collab of the final countdown, and it's a Stranger Things coded song, which is going to be amazing because it's, you know, it's 80s and it's one of my favorite shows ever. And then the last part of that is going to be a Tears for Fears cover. I don't want to give away the name of the song, but that I'm going to keep under wraps. That's going to be the last release for the year. So we're going to have 3. 2 are going to be very Stranger Things associated, and the other one's going to be like a standalone cover.
Well, I am so excited to hear about this because earlier today you used the word synchronicity, and I also think that there's a reason why you should be so intuitive with how you pursue your art, because had you have not waited to do that one song, the alignment wouldn't have been there to where it's at today, and it could have just been another song in the vault. And so I do think that there is a very kind of magical way, kind of like what we talked about earlier today, why we have this gravitation pull to not do things or to wait. And I love that you are so tapped into that, because this is what it's about. It's about this magic and this intuition and how we hone in on it, and not just focusing on numbers and put out a song to put out a song. Everything should be connected to your foundation and to what you stand for. And thank you so much for staying true to that. I am so fucking excited and so ready for these releases. I cannot wait. So now that you've teased us enough, please lastly, Corvyx, tell everyone where they can find you. Where can they subscribe to be on the lookout for these incredible releases?
So on YouTube, it's just Corvyx, Corvyx, and then across social platforms, TikTok, Instagram, it's Corvyx Official. And then if you are so inclined, please join the Corvyx Coven on Patreon. You can find me on there, just Corvyx, Corvyx. And of course
excited.
on Spotify and all streaming platforms.
So excited. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Mo.
This has been just so out of this world, and just I'm like completely in awe, because this is the reason why I am very specific and very particular with the guests that I choose to have on, because there's something there and I cannot explain it. Again, I get told I'm the fucking witch in the family myself, but there's something there, and I am so grateful that we connected. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mo. And I want to acknowledge you as well for creating a platform where artists can feel safe and tell their stories. I genuinely really enjoyed this. And also shout out to your sister for introducing you to me. What's her name?
Her name is Carol.
Hi, Carol.
She'll freak out. Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much. We'll definitely be in touch, all right?
Awesome. Thank you, Mo.
Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Bye. Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.